Hello.
Hello, hello, Jonny, and hello, lovely Hopepunk audience members. Whether you're watching live or whether you're watching sometime in the future, you're very, very welcome. You are part of our Hopepunk community. We are researching a project called Hopepunk, and it's Arts Council funded, and it's a show that was meant to originally be about hope, but the more that we've gone along, the more we've been focusing a bit more on exploring recovery. So recovery from mental illness and also recovery from difficult times. So a bit more proactive because I started realizing that hope was maybe could be a bit more passive. But let's explore all of those questions today with my amazing guest, who is the fabulous Jonny Benjamin, MBE. He's got all these things like letters after his name. It's wonderful. Hello, Jonny.
Hi, how you doing? You're right.
Um,
Hi, thanks,
I'm
thanks for having me on.
yeah, thank you so much for coming. I'm really, really delighted to have you because you're so busy, and I know that you're very popular and in demand at the moment. But I'm also delighted to have you because you're one of one of my mates. Jonny and I met via a group called the Speakers Collective. Who anyone who's watched any of these other interviews that we've done, and if you haven't, please go back and watch them again. They're on the rest of the Twitch channel or my YouTube channel. We've spoken to a number of different members of the Speakers Collective, including John Salmon, Jake Mills, and Adrian Garcia. And today it's Jonny's turn. Jonny, you were one of the founding members of the Speakers Collective, weren't you?
Yeah. It was amazing. It's such an amazing community of people, like-minded people, all people that have been through different experiences. Yeah, all different sorts of things, different backgrounds. It's just amazing to have that sort of community. I think it's been really important during particularly the last sort of 2 years with the pandemic and the lockdowns. Like it's just I feel like we've strengthened as a community actually in the last couple of years. Yeah, it makes such a difference. This is quite a it can be really difficult and lonely roads, this mental health business. So yeah, to have a community, it just makes such a difference.
Yeah, it really does. And I remember I've seen you a number of times over the last couple of years, whether it's virtual or in person.
Yeah.
And the last time I think that we met was in July this year at an event in King's Cross, which I think was the first in-person event.
Mm.
Was that then? Trying to remember now. Dates just don't seem to make sense. But it's really lovely to see you again. And yeah, we had a chat at that event that I might allude to again later on.
Mhm, mhm.
Just to let anyone know a bit more about Jonny. At the age of 20, Jonny was diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder, a combination of schizophrenia and bipolar, and later began making films on YouTube about the condition that have been watched by millions of people. Maybe you are one of them. Jonny now speaks publicly about living with mental illness and has written articles and given various interviews on TV, radio, and in print around the world to help educate and break stigma. He's also produced and presented documentaries on BBC Three, Channel 4, on the subjects of mental health and suicide. His 2014 social media campaign with Rethink Mental Illness, which is the charity that I'm an ambassador for. Yay!
Yay.
Um, Big up Rethink Mental
Yeah,
Illness.
that's pretty thing.
I love them so much. Hashtag find Mike, the man who talked Jonny of jumping off of a bridge when he was suicidal. That went viral and led to Jonny becoming a prominent spokesperson on the subject of suicide. He has written 2 books. The second book, The Book of Hope, was published in spring 2021, and that is a book that begins with a chapter written by me, which I'm very grateful for the opportunity. Thank you very much. And most recently, Jonny has set up a new mental health charity, Beyond, which we have been signalling on our Discord. If you guys are watching and you want to join our Discord, then on Discord we've got some information about Beyond, which aims to provide better
Nice.
mental health support to young people around the country. Jonny, I mean, there's so much that I wanted to chat to you about. There's so much there. I guess let's start off with the nature of hope, because you've got the Book of Hope, which is currently available and an excellent gift for Christmas.
Like it, I
um,
like it.
but could you tell me a bit about why it was what that book is, how you sort of approached it, and why it was that you wanted to do a book about hope?
Yeah. Again, working in the mental health space for about 10 years now. Um, just met so many people who unfortunately have given up, or their families have given up, and it's heartbreaking, when you listen to people that just, yeah, say that they've tried everything, and they don't think they'll get better, or their families don't think they'll get better, and it's I was just like, there must be something more that I can do, that we can do. So I just basically wrote to all my friends, all my colleagues, and said, can we put something together which is on the subject of hope, to give other people some hope and inspiration? And it just happened to coincide with the pandemic and the lockdowns. Like, we didn't obviously we didn't foresee this was coming, but it was kind of good timing, because I think I know, well, I don't know one person that hasn't felt a moment of losing hope in the last 2 years, with the and it's still ongoing, of course. And yeah, so I wanted to get a real kind of range of different experiences of how people had found hope or overcome adversity. And so, yeah, in the book we've got people from, yeah, again, all different ages and backgrounds, and experiences, places in the world. And my hope is that, if you can't relate to one person in the book, then maybe you'll relate to someone else, or there'll be something for everyone in the book. That's my hope, really, with the book.
And I remember talking to you because firstly, you approached me as one of the people to write on it. I think it was back in 2019. It was a
Yeah.
really long time ago. And I mean, yeah, when I say really long time ago, I mean in terms of the experiences that we've all had since then in the last couple of years, and how the world's completely changed. But I remember talking, we both were on a virtual gig earlier this year, where we started talking about hope and about mental
Mm.
illness, and the fact that when you leave a psychiatric ward, which you and I've both we've both been in and left a number of times,
Yeah.
that there's like I remember when I for me I felt like it was almost like an apology when I left. Like, it was all very well. You fell off the train tracks, and well,
Mm.
what you gonna do? Off you go. And then aftercare was fairly limited. And we were
Yeah.
chatting about how when you leave a maternity ward, you get given
Mm.
like gifts, and like there's this wonderful celebration of, oh, it's new life. There's loads of hope.
Mm.
And why isn't
Mm.
that the same for people on psychiatric wards or who've been sectioned? That look, you've been given the new gift of your inner child. You've got to look after her or him or
Mm.
them.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, I'm guessing what I'm asking is, why do you think there is that difference, and why is there still that kind of apology and do you think there is embarrassment or shame or apologeticness when it comes to mental health recovery? Because it is a beginning of a recovery.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Oh, it's so different to, like you say, maternity wards or cancer. Like cancer wards, people will have the bell that they ring when maybe they
Yeah.
finish treatment and they leave, and it's a big celebration. But yeah, I mean, God, when I've left the psychiatric unit, it's always been pretty well, maybe because the inpatient care hasn't always been great, to be honest. That might be a start. I sometimes feel even the staff that work in these inpatient units kind of almost know that the care could be better themselves. So maybe they don't. That's another reason why they don't celebrate when you leave. It's like, oh God, we did the best we could, but good luck.
Mm.
But yeah, but again, there's still this stigma, isn't there? There's still this stigma. Again, I know people around me that have been in psychiatric hospitals. Um, it's kind of whispered, or there's still that shame. There's still a shame, I think, going into like a psychiatric hospital and coming out again. It's not like cancer, or I've been for an operation on my body and someplace. I went to hospital. There's still this kind of I don't know, yeah, the shame, the stigma, I think, linked to mental illness, and particularly going into a psychiatric hospital and coming out of a psychiatric hospital. I think maybe as well because in the media there's not been the greatest representation or portrayals of psychiatric hospitals over the years. Think of like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, or you know, Girl Interrupted, and like, oh my gosh, the you know, those places are scary in those films. So yeah, I think people are still afraid of a psychiatric hospital and what goes on, and just the very name psychiatric hospital. It's not exactly very sexy, is it?
No,
So
I mean it's slightly better than asylum. I quite like,
yeah,
although I didn't. I
yeah,
think the word asylum the originally meant like sanctuary or something like that. Like where,
yeah.
which I mean, maybe we should start having sanctuaries rather than
I agree.
psychiatric
Yeah,
wards. But yeah,
I
I
like
mean
that. I like that.
the idea of asylums in the Victorian era, it being like this theme park that people could pay to go and
I
stare at the
know.
crazy people. And do you think
No.
have we moved further away from that? Is there could we move further away from it?
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, we've definitely moved away, but we could still move a whole lot further away. I know there's people like someone called James Leadbitter, who's the vacuum cleaner. He calls himself the vacuum cleaner. Who's an awesome artist, and he actually designed like a state of the art sort of 21st century psychiatric hospital, like a sanctuary. And it was like I remember the Welcome Trust showed it as an exhibition, and it was amazing seeing this thing that he designed with other people with lived experience. And yeah, it was like, this is how these places should look like, you know. Recovery is the main theme, and it's all about light and hope, and it's all about collaboration between, you know, the person in the hospital and the staff. It was just, I don't know, yeah, it looked so different when I saw it, and I was like, this has to be the future, this has to be the way forwards. Because yeah, we there's a long way to go. I think there's a long way to go in mental health in general, but particularly when it comes to inpatient units, there's a hell of a long way to go. I think we're not really talking about it enough.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of, it's strange because we all have health. We all have mental health, right? We all have physical health. We all have mental health. We all have health that we can either look after or we can abuse, right? We can manage it well. We can manage it less well. Some of us might get mentally ill with a condition, just like some of us might get physically ill with a condition. Some of us might make a full recovery. Some of us might just learn to manage it better over the course of our lives. But the thing that confuses me is why everyone's kind of, if it comes to mental health care, everyone's aware that at some point you're probably going to go to a physical health hospital. Like you're going to go to a
Mm.
physical, you're going to go to the GP at some point in your life. So why are we not kind of having the same attitude with mental illness? Whereas I feel like we've still got this them versus us, like the inspiration porn idea of, oh,
Mm.
aren't they inspirational? I'm so glad that I'm
Yeah,
not like them. Um,
it's so true, so true,
do
so
you,
true.
do you think that you're familiar with the term inspiration porn?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So are you do you think that's helped or hindered the mental health conversation?
Well, it's a really good question. I think in some ways, maybe, well, actually, no, maybe it's hindered. Um, I just, yeah, for me, I get it all the time, to be honest, because I've been quite public about my story, and done the documentaries and been in the media, and give talks. Yeah, I get it all the time, and I find it quite. I find it difficult, actually. I find it really difficult, um, especially because of the story that I have with the stranger on the bridge. And he gets it as well. It's like we're these sort of demigods sometimes when we give talks. It's like, you guys have got the best story ever, and it's all like, you guys are heroes, and it's all been happily ever after for you, hasn't it? And I'm like, no, because that's
Yeah,
what I think. Particularly with the media, like when I was giving interviews to journalists, it would always be like, well, now things are great for you. And I'd be like, whoa, no, stop. Like, this is an ongoing thing for me. Like people love to, like, I don't know, in the heads invent these happy endings, and, you know, wrap things up with a nice little bow, particularly with journalists. And, you know, I always try and be really honest, as I know you do, about, you know, this is an ongoing thing. And, you know, just because there was this, you know, one great thing that happened doesn't mean like it's all good after that. Like, that's not life. It's not real life. So yeah, I'm always trying to just be really, really honest and frank, and real. Particularly
yeah,
again with social media as well. Uh, again, that's I see more and more people talking about their mental health on social media, and they get so much praise. And yeah, it's good, it's great, but need to be real, have to be real,
Yeah.
because well, you have to.
So
I
I'll
have
come on
to.
to social media in a bit, because I think there's a lot that I've learned recently about boundaries, which was something that I didn't understand before. And I don't know if you're aware, Jonny, but I've come off social media, not
Mm,
altogether, but I stepped completely back for 2 months, and then for another 2 months I was like semi on, and now
mm,
I'm just focusing on letting people know that we're doing these interviews, and
yeah,
not really I'm putting in place new boundaries. So I'll come on to that
yeah.
in a sec. In my introduction to you, mentioned about the situation with Find Mike, um, but which I'd love to ask you to tell us about in your words, and then I'd like to move on to talk about the nature of stories. So, firstly, could you tell us in a nutshell the story of Find Mike?
Yeah. So when I was 20, I was really ill, and I was in hospital, and I ran away because I just given up, completely given up. I was struggling with my sexuality as well. That was a massive issue for me, coming from a Jewish family, and I just gave up. And so for me, there was only one way out of the whole situation, and that for me was to run away from this hospital, go to this bridge that I planned, and that was it. But thankfully for me, when I ran away and went to this bridge, I was stopped by this stranger that was walking past, and he stopped and he stood next to me, and we had this dialogue that just changed things for me. Just it was the way that he was with me, just his kindness. It was his kindness and his empathy, and non-judgment, and the way that he listened. I think that was so key with me. And then he convinced me not to go through with it, to come off the edge, and I didn't do it, and I ended up going back to hospital, and then I started this long journey to get back on track. And when I was in a better place, and when I was an ambassador for I'm still an ambassador for Rethink, but when I started to become an ambassador for Rethink, they actually said to me, "Oh, that story that you have is amazing. Why don't you try and find this guy?" And we launched this social media campaign to find this guy, and it just took off, and unbelievably we found him within just 2 weeks through the power of Facebook. Talking of social media, he came forwards. His wife saw the post on Facebook, and obviously he came forwards, and we were reunited. And it was a really just phenomenal moment, being reunited, and getting to say thank you. It was really special, really special.
So, you've got this amazing story that it's got a beautiful, well, it's got the setup, it's got the character
Yeah,
traits that need to be solved by the end of the story. You've got the
yeah,
the midpoint goal reassertion, where
mm,
the moment happened where you met, and then you've got okay, well, now we've got a new goal of finding Mike, and
yeah,
and then it all wraps up neatly that yes, you did find each other, and now you go around and do talks together. Now, the
mm,
reason I'm saying it like that is because I've been doing my shows for a number of years, and that's filmic structure of Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, midpoint goal reassertion, darkest before the dawn moment. It's how films are structured, and
yeah,
how I've structured my shows previously, because it's very satisfying for an audience, if a storyteller uses that kind of template. But in the research I've been doing for this show, and when I say research, I mean that I had a breakdown in this year, and
mm,
um, which led to some breakthroughs, which has led to me changing more dramatically than I think I've ever changed before, which is very discombobulating. Um,
yeah,
but part
yeah.
of that is I was reading up about trauma a lot, too much,
Mm.
perhaps, and one of the things I read was talking about how telling a narrative, telling a story, can distance ourselves from feeling the feelings related to a trauma,
Yeah.
um, and that's actually not going to help us recover or actually process the feelings attached to what happened. Um, And that led me to read up more about the nature of storytelling and the nature of why humans are so drawn to this kind of lovely, neat ending. Because, and I've been thinking about it a lot recently, because, you know, you read a book, we watch a film, we go to a play. There's this, again, a godlike figure of the author or the director or all the creatives who know that it's all going to be okay in the end. Or if it's not, that we're going to be presented it in a way that's packaged, that means that we're going to be feeling safe and contained, and we leave the theatre or we leave the cinema feeling like, yeah, everything's, we can handle our life differently or better because of the art we've consumed. Now, I'm wondering, because of what you said about your story and journalists kind of neatly packaging it up, and, you know, we all package things. How can we present the reality of living with mental illness, which doesn't have a neat package? It goes on, it gets messy, it's going to have to get worse before it gets better. And then even when it gets better, it's not ever really ended. It's all complicated. How can we move confidently away from that neatness?
Yeah.
And I guess related to hope, it's for me because when I first started doing public speaking, it was always with that speak from experience, strength, and hope. Always leave them with hope. And then recently, I've been thinking, well, why? I mean, I know that that's what people want, but that isn't actually necessarily what life gives us.
So true.
How can we be more real?
Well, I think like journalists, filmmakers need to be a bit braver. You know, I think I think it comes down to, you know, their training, the training for those storytellers, you know, when they're studying to become a journalist or studying to become a filmmaker or director or whatever it is. Maybe it's in the training of, you know, I mean, yeah, I mean, I went to drama school, and yeah, I mean, gosh, the training that we were given, I completely get what you're saying. You know, leave them. You had to leave the audience feeling good, no matter what happened during the play. You had to leave them feeling good when they left the theatre. And yeah, I remember that. I remember that training really, really well. But yeah, I think we need to get more comfortable with that unease, that unease, that vulnerability, that whole thing of because look at the pandemic. I mean, look at this pandemic. Like, you know, it is just going on and on and on and on, and I'm seeing people grow increasingly angry and frustrated. And I get it. You know, it is like. So, you know, masks, with the whole thing of wearing masks, like, has become...
Oh yeah, happy Mask Day. We've got to wear them again.
Yeah, I know, right? I know. And I've seen the way that some people have responded with such anger, and like, I thought this was over, and there's such, yeah, because but whereas I think maybe me, because of, you know, I've experienced so much sort of unpredictability in my life with my mental health and so many ups and downs, I'm just like, okay, so, you know, this is still going on. We might not have a Christmas with family. We might have to all go in. I'm not happy about it. I'm not, you know, but I'm getting on with it and I'm dealing with it, maybe because I'm used to that sort of unease, and maybe people that aren't used to that sort of, yeah, that unease. And again, particularly journalists and maybe, I don't know, creators. I think it's about them sitting with that discomfort. I've also done a lot of work on myself, like therapy and, you know, mindfulness and kind of, you know, spirituality, like Buddhism. And Buddhism is all about, you know, sitting with this discomfort and sitting with the disease. And I wish that the rest of society, I think it comes down to education and training. Like, you know, I think if we can grow up in a world where, you know, because we grow up with these fairy tales. You know, I remember as a kid, it was all about these fairy tales like Sleeping Beauty and Cinderella. And there's always adversity, but it always has a happy ending. And that's just not real life. And I wish during my years growing up, people would have said, you know, life's hard. Life's really, 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 really hard. And that's okay. And we have to sit with that. but I never got sort of taught that or educated in how to deal with that. Sorry, that's a very long-winded answer of
No, I love it. It's pulling out all of these themes that I'm really fascinated by. Yeah, for me, the going to yoga and meditation and learning, and I'm still learning, and I'm not doing it very well today. Learning to sit with that discomfort and that uncertainty, and
yeah.
being comfortable, being uncomfortable, being like learning how to be comfortable with uncertainty is really it's so challenging, and not just for people with mental illness, but for people, just humans. That's just one of the
Yeah.
things, one of the big lessons in life that I wonder. I think it also you keep having to practice it. Like, I don't think it's something, oh, I just learn and
Yeah.
suddenly I've got it. You know, it's actually, you've got to keep doing it and keep doing it.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of
Yeah.
curious about it because you mentioned the pandemic there, and one of the questions I've been asking my interviewees is, do you think the pandemic was a societal trauma? And so may I ask you, it sounds like you think so, but
Yeah, and the fact that it's going on and on and on, and when I read the headlines, like the headlines at the moment, the news at the moment, it is traumatizing. And I think, again, journalists and the media need to take some more responsibility, maybe,
yeah,
for what they're putting out there. Because I really worry about the impact it's having on people. I'm also in a different way to you, but I've been trying to take a step back from maybe social media, the media, and when I take a real step back, it really often has quite a positive effect on my mental health. Because some of the stuff that is out there, it really, particularly around the pandemic, and again, like things like the vaccines, and just there's so much out there, and yeah, the language and the way it's delivered, it is pretty traumatizing.
yeah,
And again, I just don't think people realize the impact of this whole 2 years on people, and I really do worry about the mental health sort of impact of this
yeah.
whole period. I really do.
Well, because so this is, forgive me because I haven't. This is not quite the prepared questions I was imagining, but this is the most important thing to be talking about right now. The Because the pandemic, you mentioned people getting angry, and I've seen people. I briefly have started just checking in on Twitter occasionally without actually hitting, and I've seen people, being so on both sides, being like, well, I've been wearing a mask all this time and I don't know what the big fuss is, and they're getting angry with the people who are angry with wearing the masks, and the people who are angry with wearing masks are, they're angry. I feel like I can understand both. Everyone needs to
Yeah,
channel. It's
true.
that grief, isn't it?
Yeah,
That it's a very natural response to feel, because we feel powerless and we feel scared. Then we cover it up with anger, because anger feels like a kind of false way of being powerful. So I mean, it's really natural to be angry, and either we can have that in our relationship interactions with the people that, for me, it was my CPTSD got so triggered by all this uncertainty, and I didn't realize that when it was happening, but all I
sure.
realized was I was really angry with the people I was in lockdown with, and how dare
Mm,
they do this and this, and
sure.
it wasn't fair on them, it wasn't about them, it was all of the pandemic, and also unhealed childhood wounds, and a lack of self-awareness, a lack of insight that I had. um,
Sure.
but there are people, everyone's feeling angry. Do you think this anger is a part of grief, or do you think it's something else?
Oh, yeah, I think it is. I think it is a part of grief. I think it's the unpredictability of it all. I think again, going back to things like social media, um, it's been a weird time, I think, with the pandemic and the lockdowns. I think, people have been trying to show their best sides of, the lockdown, like, I've baked 1 million banana breads, and, I've managed to learn a new skill, and, I see other people kind of feeling angry with themselves for, I didn't do that. I should have done that. Why didn't I do that during the lockdown? Why haven't I been doing this? I mean, there's been so much about dieting and weight and food during the lockdown. And so many people have talked to me about, how they put on weight during lockdown, and, they're really annoyed with themselves. And God, there is this whole, there's just this collective anger, I think, about the last 2 years and how they've what they've taken from us, whether that be, unfortunately, whether that be maybe a person, maybe an individual, due to COVID, or maybe it's something like some sort of freedom, like going traveling, for example. So yeah, grief. Yeah, for sure. Actually, it is grief. There is this anger that I feel is just because it's going on and on, this pandemic, and there's so much uncertainty. I just feel like this anger is building, and it's coming out in really unhelpful ways. I see it a lot on social media, and the way that people attack each other. I feel those attacks are becoming more and more. I don't know. I worry. I think about it a lot. I worry about, again, the impact it's having on our relationships to ourselves, but our relationships to each other,
Yes.
family, friends, society. I've seen a lot of public confrontations in the last particularly now since the last lockdown ended, and I've been in London in particular and on the tube, and people get so angry with each other more than I've ever seen before. Why are you sitting next to me coughing, or why are you not wearing a mask, and like it really frightens me, this sort of the anger that we're showing to each other, and I think it's just going to get worse because of this ongoing situation.
Yeah. Like I think so this, again, I'm trying to phrase this carefully. So there's certain layers that I've kind of gone through with anger myself, and I'm trying to figure out where we're going next, because there's one thing to kind of to see somebody not wearing a mask, or wearing a mask whichever way, and on the tube or on the bus, and having that, oh, they're the problem, that they're doing the thing that I don't want them to do. So then you and we've done enough mental health workshops and stuff to be like, okay, well, I know I can't control other people, I can only control myself. So my behavior, this is where my power lies, is, do I choose to wear a mask, do I choose not to wear a mask, what do I do with my life, and why am I doing it? Okay, let's focus back on what I can control, not what I can't control, and focus on the wisdom that I can gain to constantly do that practice. But then there comes the next layer of earlier this year. Well, I'm going to be vulnerable because you're my mate. I was, as I say, I was really angry with the people around me in lockdown. So it was really unnecessary, really critical, but for some reason that was where I was zeroing in my focus. And looking back, it was poor communication, it was blame, and breaking their intellectual, emotional, physical boundaries, and but very immature behavior, but just in a very specific relationship, or couple of relationships. And then I was presenting this very zen front to everybody else, but then in that little hole of a corner, these relationships were being ripped apart. And then now I've kind of, through circumstance, that's kind of shifted. I've realized recently that I've started feeling really angry towards the theatre industry, as if the theatre industries, as if theatre were a person. We're like, so it's recently been like, well, you left me, theatre industry, you shut down when I was about to go on my second UK tour, like, why you abandoned me, like, why should I devote my time and my energy to you again when you might abandon me again? Like, you're promising me you're going to be here, but you can't guarantee that you're not going to run away again. It's like, well, poor theatre industry, if it were a person, is also going through, like, the theatre industry have no idea whether they can stay open or not. And so I'm now like, okay, I observe this anger I feel towards this industry that I love. What is that hiding? What is actually, like, because I don't want that anger to mean that I suddenly have a big emotional response and try to change. Like, I don't want to abandon the theatre industry, but so I guess the question I'm asking is, how can we have insight? Where does insight end and action begin? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, or have I phrased that correctly?
No, I think the key thing that you said there was, like, you said you observe, and I think that's so key, the observing rather than the responding. Is if we can just
Mm.
observe, just, and just hold it for a bit. So, I know myself, like with emails, for example, sometimes, I'll get an email that I want to respond to straight away, and I'm angry about it. Something about it has upset me, and I want to just get back to them straight away. And I used to do that. I used to, like, write, reply, type, send, and it was a disaster. Every time it was a disaster. Whereas now I'm learning to, I get that email and I'm not happy about it, but okay, well, let's sit with what's going on. Let's take a walk. Let's just take a walk. For me, walking, I find, is really therapeutic. Just get out there. Just walk. Just walk. Maybe leave it a day. That's the thing as well. Like time, I think time is such a. I know it's a cliche, but time really is a great healer. So, just again, it's very sort of it's Buddhist, like, just sitting with something and just sort of letting it be for a bit. But I mean, and Buddhism isn't about, just letting everything go, because we can't, we can't do that. But it's just about sitting with it for a bit and seeing, because it will change. You think something is fixed, but we change, don't we? We're not set in stone. We change, our feelings change, and so yeah, just sitting with it and just sitting with it for maybe a few hours, a day, a few days, a few weeks. um it's a hard practice. It's not easy. It's not easy. It's a hard practice, and it takes a lot of, sort of, again, like, dedication and practice and patience. But I think it makes a difference if you're able just to hold something like what you were saying, that anger. If you can just hold it for a little bit and just almost play with it and just see, okay.
Get curious
Curious,
about it.
curious, curious. Yeah, curiosity. That's such a good word. Yeah, yeah, for sure,
Yeah, it was one
for
of
sure.
my words my therapist has been using with me. I'm so lucky to have her. But yeah, being curious about this feeling, like, and you're so right. It's the not reacting, because again, with my CPTSD emotional flashbacks, I got caught in this, like, reacting to reactions to reacting to reactions to reacting to reactions, and it was just, can't get out of that. That's just going to keep everyone in that a scenario is going to have their nervous systems heightened, and, like, hypervigilance on in danger. Our amygdala is going to be firing off of, like, danger, danger, danger.
Yeah.
If we can be like, okay, I observe, I witness. So phrases like that, I
Mm.
observe, I'm feeling angry at this. Okay, I witness. A witness would notice that I am doing my eyes are darting over here right now. My heart rate is going up. Let's be curious. Let's lift that stone and look underneath it and see, oh, okay, what possibly could be going on? Where could this possibly go? Is this related to something in the past? Is it related to something? Is it all about the present? Is there something is there some action I need to take? And I guess the fact that we've all had to pause a bit more and slow down,
Mm.
and breathe. Like, breathing, I had no idea that I didn't breathe that well.
Yeah.
It's a strange thing, because being able to hold our reactions a little bit, not hold, but yeah, pause before reacting, is very against the way of the rules of comedy. Like, comedy should
Yeah,
be
of course, of
just
course.
laugh. Just, if you feel it, don't think about it. Just, if you feel like laughing, laugh. It's going to be great. But even in the creation of this show, there's a lot of pausing and going, okay, well, rather than doing what we've always done before, why are we doing it? What's the intention rather than what's the goal? And how can we do it differently? Is there a better way of doing it? I wonder, so anger management, Jonny, is something that, do you think that, is it Buddhism that helps you manage anger?
Uh, Sometimes, because I don't always have it. I mean, actually, a lot of the time I don't have it under control, or, my mind just runs away just really quickly. But yeah, I mean, yeah, Buddhism and therapy again. I've got an amazing therapist. I'm really lucky. So Buddhism, therapy. I use some support groups as well. I use actually every Monday night I use a support group called Humen. Humen is men's support group online, and anger is a common theme in that. It comes up all the time, and just hearing other people share their anger, particularly other men, some real tough situations and some real raw anger that comes out, and just I don't know, again, being able to hold that space and pausing and just just letting it sort of percolate, it's very powerful, rather than that thing that we do, and particularly with social media, like just react. Yeah, I think I think there's lots of things that I need to do, and if I don't do these things, like go to the groups, go to my therapy, practice the meditation, the Buddhism, I quickly go downhill. So I know the things that I have to do, and I feel quite lucky that I know what I have to do. I'm aware. I'm aware. Again, it's awareness, isn't it?
Well, that again, that's something that I've been experimenting, again, getting curious about what might work, what doesn't work, and for me. And now I've identified some things that are like, oh, okay, I see a trend. If I go to yoga, if I go to slow yoga practices, if I do meditation classes, if I occasionally go dancing, swing dancing, if I arrange to chat to certain friends regularly, then I find that my heart rate slows down. I find that my breathing gets better. If I don't do those things, then I become dysregulated. Now, firstly, I didn't know those things before experimenting with this. Secondly, those things are often things that I need to do in a group. Like, I don't have a lot of space in my flat to do yoga and also being around a group of people doing the same practice has a very different effect on you physiologically speaking. So with the lockdowns and with pandemic, not being able to even experiment with those things that might help was for me difficult. So that leads me on to my next question, Jonny. How do you manage fear? How do you cope with fear?
Yeah, again, it depends. Sometimes I cope with it. Like at the moment, I think I'm coping with it quite well. So I'm anxious about sort of the next few months because of what's happening in the world and Christmas. My Christmas plans. I really wanted to see family. I really wanted to spend it with family, but I'm anxious now that I won't be able to. But I'm doing okay with that at the moment, and I think it's because I'm taking a step back from things at the moment. I'm not fully in social media engaged. I mean, it's been I don't know where you are, but wherever you are in the world, we're really lucky at the moment. It's been beautiful, sunny weather, and I've been taking long walks actually every day in this sunshine and the crisp sort of winter air. I don't know, there's something about it. It's just sort of really refreshing for me, and it's really sort of helping to calm I think me. And so I'm dealing with everything that I'm fearful of quite well at the moment, because I'm just taking a bit more care of myself. But I know there's other times when I don't know, I'm on a hamster wheel, and I'm just and then if fear comes in, then I don't deal with it very well. So again, it's just like we've been saying, like there's just things that I need to do, whether it's the anger or whether it's the fear, and if I don't do those things, then I quickly get into horrible cycles, that really tricky cycles, and I quickly spiral. So I know what I need to do. I know what I need to do now, and I feel lucky that I've got that awareness, because some people just don't have that awareness. They really don't.
So, I mean, there's something I learned about with CPTSD and conflict, and is the 3 R's. So when you have any conflict, you need to what was it? Hang on. Regulate. you need to self-regulate, then co-regulate, then
Mm.
you can reason. So if it's within another individual, if you have any kind of dysregulation of your nervous system, then you need to calm yourself down, go for your walks, go for your, the walking is a really good idea. Taking time alone to calm your nervous system down, then you start to do something fun with the other person so that you can both feel like you're safe together again, and then you can start to
Mm.
reason and repair. So go into like talking about, right, what happened there, and again, that kind of just slows down that process and focuses on our bodies a bit more, which is what I feel like
Mm.
you're
Mm.
saying, is getting in touch with what your needs are, what helps you get into that safer state. I know for me, before doing this work on myself this year, whenever uncertainty came or a period of rapid change, which we've all been through, like the like March
Mm.
last year, wow,
Mm. Yeah, I
my
know.
instinct at that time was, because of attachment disorder, because I have anxious attachment style, I was like, I'm going to cling to anything possible, like anything certain that I
Mm.
can keep certain. I'm going to
Yeah,
keep
sure.
it right close to me, and I'm going to control.
Sure.
And instead, that was not healthy. That causes rot underneath, I think,
Mm.
quite quickly. So I was recently, I've been thinking a lot about the phrase hiding behind my mental health conditions, and I wanted to ask you about this. So somebody mentioned it to me, of they thought potentially I'd been hiding behind my mental health conditions, and I've been
Mm.
curious about it. I think they might have been right. I think I was for a long time telling the narrative about my mental health conditions and never actually recovering from them, and always saying, oh, but I'm going through a period of suicide ideation, you can't talk to me like that. Like, okay, but what are you actually doing to improve your mental state, Juliet? Like, so I wondered, have you ever hidden behind your mental health diagnoses? And if you, well, have you ever hidden behind your mental health diagnoses, do you think?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, definitely. Yeah, I definitely
Ha-
have. And well, just what when you said that about, the suicidal ideation, I've definitely used that before. Not used, that sounds, but well, I've said that to people. You can't, yeah, you please don't talk to me like this because I'm going through this.
yeah.
And interestingly, it never has a good outcome. The other person just tends to get more frustrated with me
Yeah.
when I say something like, I'm going through this. You can't talk to me like this, or yeah, never goes down well at all. And then I get even more. It just breaks that things down even more, because that person gets frustrated with me, and then I get frustrated with that person. Like, hello, I'm going through this. Why are you not? And
That
it's never a
reaction.
react. Exact. Just, yeah, constant, like, reaction. It's not great.
Well,
And
this is, I guess this is a kind of a thing I'm wondering now, Jonny, whether, like, because we talk about in mental health training in the workplace, we talk about having reasonable adjustments and having like an
yeah,
action plan for when things do go badly. And I'm now thinking that moving into this next phase of the pandemic, and moving into our next phase of our
yeah,
ongoing journey of recovery, maybe we
yeah.
need to sit down with the people nearest and dearest to us and say, okay, these are the symptoms that we might exhibit, and if I say things like, you can't talk to me like that because I'm
Yeah,
going
you're
through
right.
this,
You're
then
right.
then these are the things that I need to do: yoga, walking, meditation, breathing exercises. And it would be really helpful to me if you could
Mm,
calmly say to
yeah,
me, or have it written down and say, right, that's difficult, you've said that before, here's
yeah.
what past you has said to present you, this is what you can do.
So true.
Do you know, like, I guess I wish I'd gone, I like, there's so many I wishes, and I'm trying to be aware that starting any phrase, any sentence with I wish, is not actually useful to impact my behavior. Um, but I do regret not being able to have this insight that I have now, back at a time when I was still doing that quite immature, like, oh no, you can't talk to me like that because I've got
Mm,
suicide ideation, or oh, like, I do this with food because I'm in recovery from anorexia, and it's like,
mm,
no, that's not actually recovery. So next question would be, Do you think that, because we've been talking, you and I have been public speakers in the mental health sector for years and years and years. I've noticed there's been a change between when I first started out, people were like scared to talk about it, and I was less scared. I was like, well, let's just do it. Like this is a part of who I have been, so I'm gonna share it. So then it moved into, we're raising awareness of mental health. And then it went from, okay, but is raising awareness actually leading to proper change in like funding? And now I'm thinking, is it moving into, well, we're so aware, we're hyper aware, there's so much self-diagnosis going on, and there's still not enough funding. And on top of that, there's the, well, are we talking about it so much that nobody's actually recovering from it? Like, are we actually focusing on the things like the yoga, the meditation, the Buddhism, or whatever it is that might help the individuals actually recover and ourselves recover? So how can we, what's the next step in this societal conversation around mental illness, Jonny?
Well, you said it yourself, the funding, but we've been saying that for so many years. Funding, but not just funding though. I think different changes in the way that that like the system works. Like for example, the system, the mental health system is just so fragmented, and we know that it could be more joined up. There could be more working together, and so funding helps, but there's also there's just practical things that can happen, that can change. But I just feel that like when it comes to like the government or people at the top, it's all still about the, well, let's just talk, let's just tell people to talk and then everything will be okay. Let's just do more mental health campaigns. Let's just have more awareness days, or well, let's just, rather than actual action, because people, I go and give a talk and they'll say, great, we've done that, great. And I'm always like, no, you haven't. Just because I've come in and given a talk, like, it's great for a day, but then people's minds move on elsewhere. So what are you doing next? And not just another talk, not just another, what action, actual action are you doing? Because I do worry about, like I see it, there's so much talk about mental health, again, due to the pandemic, and particularly on social media. Again, I go back to social media. There's a lot of people talking, a lot of self-diagnosis, I notice sometimes on social media. And what about the action? What about that's what I'm always going back to, is what action are people taking, whether that be individually or as a sort of organization, or as a collective, as a sort of group. What action are people taking? Because I still feel that mental health is so people have to deal with it on their own so much of the time, even though there's talk. At the end of the day, people are still because there's not the funding and because there's not the support in place, so many people are still having to deal with it on their own. And there's so much work to do. I just don't think people realize how much work there is to do.
I think there's I'm getting a sense at the moment that people, because individuals really want to change. So many people are like, okay, I've reached a point that I have to do something differently. And so like there's almost like on individuals, it's like a subterranean underground layer of people going, have you read this book? Have you read this book? Have you read this book? Which, by the way, if anyone wants to join our Discord, we've got a list of books that I recommend. But like,
so funny.
It's like an underground layer of like, okay, well, if they're not going to help us, then what can we all recommend for each other? Like a kind of underground fight club, except that it's fighting against, I don't know, fighting, not recovering. So there's also like this thing you mentioned. I feel like there's a theme here of there's ripples on the surface. Like if you're in the water, you've got ripples on the surface with all the sunlight coming in, and you're like, and it's really distracting. And then if you go further down, deeper into the depths of the same water, it's really still, and you can get a sense of what's consistent, what's really there, what's really going to give you the further resources. So, and it's all part of the same water. So it's all the same body of water, but we have to get down to the depths a bit more.
100%, 100%.
We've only got about 4 minutes left, Jonny. So
it's gone really quick. It's gone so quick. I feel like I've only been talking for like 20 minutes. What
we really need is for us to be given jobs in the government under like mental health reform, and then we'll be able to sort this whole thing out.
Wow. If only. If only.
Jonny, I wanted to quickly ask you a couple more things, including how can people find out more about you if they wanted to join you on social media, and then we're going to talk about social media before we wrap up.
So, I'm on social media, Mr. Jonny Benjamin, but then the charity Beyond is also on social media under We Are Beyond, and there's a lot more that the charity's doing rather than me. Yeah.
Okay, so follow the charity instead of you. And when it comes to social media, Jonny, how do we, because we need to keep really strong boundaries. I know that I've found it really difficult with the pandemic, especially hearing people message me having not put in place good boundaries before the pandemic. People were sort of oversharing with me, and then I was kind of trying to point them towards charities, but like it was taking a toll, and it took me away from focusing on the proactive self-recovery that we've been talking about. So how do we move forward with social media if we want to support people, but we also need to have healthier boundaries?
It's such a good question, and it's something I struggle with as well. I really do struggle with it. I mean, I've got into some really tricky situations where I've not put boundaries in place, and I haven't put boundaries in place, and people have been angry with me because I haven't given them maybe the support that they wanted, but I have to look after my own health. It's an ongoing journey, and if I don't look after my own mental health, then quickly go downhill, as I keep saying. So it's a tricky one. I think for me, I'm really lucky because I know all the different mental health charities, organizations out there, and I know where to signpost people to quite quickly. People might come to me with certain things. Often it's family members will come to me, like parents will come about their children or their whoever it is, and I'll be able to signpost them. Right, Young Minds can provide this for you as a parent, or the Anna Freud Center can do this for you as a guardian. Do you know what I mean? I feel lucky that I know the space really well, so I'm able to direct people to the right places. But it's difficult if you don't know the space well. And maybe you're just starting out and you're getting these messages saying help, 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 and you don't know where to signpost people to. It's tricky, but there is places like the Hub of Hope, which is run by a good friend of ours, Jake, and the Hub of Hope is just a kind of it's a whole thing where you can just direct people to it. They can type in their location and it'll bring up their local support. So stuff like that is amazing. But I think for me, signposting is so key. But it takes a while to get to know the space, I think, and to know where best to signpost people to. And it's also okay just to say that, if you're getting a message on a day when you're really not in a good place and you can't get back to them on that day, that's okay. They'll be tomorrow, or they'll be the next day, or the day after that. But, never prioritize, this is going to sound, never prioritize someone else's mental health before yours. That might be controversial, but I just think that's true.
No, you've got to put your own oxygen mask on before you assist others. Absolutely. With that, Jonny, I hope that you can put your oxygen mask on for the rest of the day, because you've given us a whole hour of your time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
It's been wonderful to chat with you, and just nice to chat. Let's go for a chat and a drink in real life whilst we can.
Yes.
Everyone,
that's true.
Thank you so much, Jonny. Everyone who's currently watching, we're going to end our stream in a second, and we're going to go raid David Hoare. We've also got another stream on tomorrow at midday. So we're going to be midday till 1 o'clock. I'm going to be talking to Dean Burnett, who is another Rethink Mental Illness ambassador. And he is both a comedian, but also a neuroscientist. So I'm very excited to chat to him, because on Thursday this week, I'm going to get my brain mapped in a neurofeedback thing. thing for,
Wow, that's
which
so cool.
it's going to be the sexiest
That's really
photograph
cool.
ever taken of me.
I love it.
So thank you so much, Jonny. Have a lovely day.
Thank
And
you
everyone, we're about to
too.
go raid David Hoare. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye.